I wanted to give you information that is useful for you
Mm-hmm.
so that you've got the right information and you're not giving out to the public information that's not
Sure.
worthy.
Okay, sure thing. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Uh,
Um, Go ahead.
oh, well, I was just I'm live, so don't say anything crazy. I think your son said that you got incredibly upset at some of my real estate takes and wanted to come on and set me straight as a real estate agent. Is that correct?
Well, that's not exactly accurate. Just you made a couple of comments saying, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Uh,
And you got to understand, I don't listen to your podcast, no offense, but
None taken. Don't worry.
I, my son makes me listen to it under duress because he's interested in stuff. And then he's like, Mom, you got to hear this. So
Okay,
when
gotcha.
there was a real estate one,
Uh huh.
he had me listen. And obviously, when there were things said, I'm like, I said, that's not right or whatever. So,
Gotcha.
no, I'm just informative. I'm not upset. I don't give a damn,
Yeah, no, I'm
quite
just kidding. We do.
frankly.
We all hate each other here on the internet. Before we get into it, I will preemptively take back one thing I said that I think you disagreed with because I had like three other real estate people email me this, and that is that having cash up front, even against a pre-approval, seems to go significantly quicker. So that is a true thing that having cash. Okay, so I'll give you that one at the start, and then everything else I'm ready to dig my heels into and fight to the death.
Well, it does take 2 weeks, even if it's cash, because the
Sure.
title company has to do their stuff, and they're not just gonna, devote a day to you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're important, but you ain't that important.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just, my thing was just, okay, homeowners don't want more houses built. You had made a comment
Yeah.
that homeowners don't want new houses built because it devalues their property, and that is actually not a correct statement.
Gotcha.
Reason being,
Mhm.
if right around the corner from you they're building $1 million houses, that immediately actually increases the value of your house, not to $1 million, but it increases the value of your house because those are close to you.
If you are in an area, let's say that you have like a neighborhood, and you have and down the street they decide to zone it all for like ultra high density housing or something, and they start building huge like units, like 20-story high apartments. Isn't that going to hurt both homeowners renting in the area and ultimately lower the price of those homes because you've got like so many other places for people to live? Or do you think that it generally doesn't play out that way? Or
Okay, this is where I've got to qualify my comments to the fact that I am a licensed real estate agent in Texas.
okay, sure.
So I am in the DFW area, and so what I'm going to say is going to be concerning, obviously the area that I know.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just in DFW literally 2 days ago, so nice. All right.
So, and it just so happens the current house that I'm in, which is only 9 years old at this point in time, they have decided to build, but they're beautiful apartments, say approximately a mile away to maybe 2 miles away. And it's really in our right off our development. So, everybody was freaking out, but being that they're going to be high quality apartments, it's really not, because at this point in time, with the market being what it is, being that it's high quality, it will not devalue our homes because it's high quality and there's no housing, and so it gives people a place to live.
Sure. I'll start to use, we can use a little bit more of a complicated analysis, I guess, then to be a little bit more fair to my point of view. It's probably not going to be the case that it necessarily devalues the homes, But do you think it might be the case that the value of the homes will increase slower than they would have otherwise, were there more places for people to live? So, for an example of this, I think I saw a report recently that when you saw the increase of rents across all of the cities in the United States, the places where rents they increased, but they grew the slowest in places like, I think there were two. It was like LA and I think New York, but it were places where people were largely leaving. There was like a net outflow of people. And I wondered, like, it seems like the rents are decreasing here because there are, or it's not that the rents are decreasing, but they're increasing less quickly as there's less people chasing the same number of units.
Okay. Well, that there again, I have to say that I'm in DFW.
Sure.
We don't have enough housing.
Yeah, of
anywhere.
course. That's true of like the entire United States. Yeah.
They are still building. Well, we have everybody is moving here for some reason. They always say, don't California our Texas, because we have a lot of Californians coming here.
Yeah.
We have people from New York. We have, they're all moving here for whatever reason because, well, I'm not going to say whatever reason. I know the reason. The reason is the companies are moving here.
True. Well, and also because
Yeah.
like the other places have become so unbelievably prohibitively expensive to live in that if you can get more people going to some of these other areas, Austin or Dallas, it's like it's just so much cheaper. I'm like in a 2-bedroom apartment in Miami for $3,500 a month right now, and it's just like it's not like a 2,000 square foot apartment. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get it. And over here, I mean, people are complaining. I mean, it's funny because when you hear about what the prices are elsewhere, here you can't really get anything less than $1,500, and that's for like 1,000 square feet.
Sure.
Which, from what you're saying, that's great, but here, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's probably pretty expensive. Yeah.
So a lot of people, because again, we're talking about Texas, so the salaries are not as high as, say, in New York, which is why cost of living is higher because they make more, or actually salaries are higher because cost of living is higher.
Why do you think
So-
why do you think it's so hard to get neighborhoods and everybody to okay? Because it seems like there's a lot of pushback and a lot of developments across the country where people don't want to okay higher density housing. I hear phrases like changing the character of the neighborhood or saying traffic is going to be too bad. It seems like there's a lot of pushback from homeowners, and that's why you can't get places like upzoned. Does that seem to be your experience, or are people in Texas more excited to upzone places, or?
Well, no, like I said, my HOA, they tried to fight it. They weren't going to win, but they tried to fight it.
Well, okay, that's a good example.
But the reason
Yeah.
being because the houses cost a certain amount. You have people who have that standard of living, that social standard. And so people who are getting the apartments are obviously going to be less income households. So that's where you're going to have the possibility of different class of people in the area.
Gotcha. So does it just come down to like not wanting poor people to move to areas, or because it seems like you can make apartments that it's not just going to be poor people, but it seems like it's just, like it's impossible to find housing like in some of these places. Like even if you're like upper middle class, like the housing prices have grown unbelievably and rents have grown unbelievably as well. I'm just curious. Like, this is like a really broad political question. Obviously, you don't have to answer, or I understand if it's difficult. But like, what is the solution? Because it seems like if individual neighborhoods are all fighting tooth and nail not to zone for high density housing, and if we don't have enough housing right now, which I think even you seem to agree is obviously the case, politicians don't want to force this on homeowners because these are like your most loyal base of voters. What do we do? What's the way forward?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, and I've had this conversation with my son, to be honest. I am from New York. Obviously, I don't have a Texas accent. I grew up in New York, and in New York, we had not single family houses. You had at least, your house and you had one renter, or your house which had 3 apartments. you had an income that came with the house. And I think that if we had multifamily houses that, and again, this is my opinion because this is what I grew up with, and it was fine. And think about, if you really think about it, if you have four family houses all over a block, you actually have the ability to house as many people as that big apartment building.
Sure. But it seems
So,
like even zoning for like higher like multifamily housing is difficult, no? Like I remember in California it was a fight. They finally did it, but are you familiar with like if I say like ADU, does that mean anything to you? Um God, fuck. What does that mean? Does it mean accessory dwelling unit? What am I think? What does it actually stand for? And basically, in California, it gave people with single family housing the ability to like rent out part of their like to build an add-on to a house, I think, and have other people moving into it if you wanted to.
well,
Basically,
and I was going to clarify what I was saying because here people look at duplexes and it's
yeah.
taken up it's taken up more space. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking upward, vertical.
Oh, okay, sure. So like,
Uh,
but not apartment buildings, something different, or
no, like, okay, like I said, I grew up in, I don't know if you ever heard the term railroad houses.
is this like if I go to like Boston and I think of like stoops and stuff, like those types of houses, or
Well, what it is the whole block, the houses are attached.
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You know, you have actually houses on both sides of your house. You have adjoining walls to your neighbors. I knew what my neighbors were doing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can imagine you can hear a lot. Yeah.
But we were able, and because New York has a large population in a small area, you know, when you're comparatively speaking to Texas. So I grew up in a house that had an apartment upstairs. The house next door to me had three apartments attached to the house. So you have your house, you know, which is one level, and then you have an upstairs that you rent out. It's the same size as your house, basically. Now we would finish the basement, so you would have double, but it's just because we had basements here in Texas. We don't have basements.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, if you've got blocks and blocks like that, you can house the same amount of people. And it also helps with paying your mortgage because you're getting rental income. And your renters are right there, so you're able to you can't be a slumlord.
Sure.
So, and would I think that here in Texas they might balk at that? They probably would initially, but we have a lot of wide open space. So if they built it in an area that there is nothing around and that's what they built, I think we'd do fabulous.
What about areas that are already having like density problems? So like if you go to like downtown Dallas or like downtown Austin or whatever, and then like you go immediately out from here where you still got a ton of single family houses. Like, do you think those areas will ever be improved, or are they just kind of like going to always be stuck at just having really big density problems?
They're going to have density problems. You know, Texas is being developed north, south, east, and west. So, I mean, they're just building and building and building. We have the area to build. But what I'm saying is they're building single family homes in all these places, and there's still not enough housing.
Yeah.
So if they would do the multi, and I don't mean big apartment buildings, because big apartment buildings they're an eyesore. They attract not the best people, shall we say, because they're generally going to be smaller apartments, cheaper rents. Whereas if you have people renting in your home and it's the same size as your home, then you're going to charge them a rent that's the same. lower income, I think lower income, I mean, and this is just my opinion. If it's going to be lower income, then put it in an area in and of itself where you're going to have a bunch of lower income.
Okay, gotcha. Um,
It doesn't have to piggyback, single family homes where it is an issue, is what I'm saying.
sure. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to comment on or anything relating to housing stuff?
Um, my son had brought something up and I can't remember what it is. So that's, I mean, again, I wanted to give you information that is useful for you so that you've got the right information and you're not giving out to the public information that's not
Sure.
worthy,
Okay, sure thing.
not valid.
Um,
No, we discussed it already. My son's pointing out the cash thing that you started with.
yeah, gotcha. I had a lot of real estate people aiming me that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any other questions that you have regarding real estate.
Um, Not that I can think of at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's not as interesting as the transgender conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real. It is what it is, yeah. All right. Well, hey, listen, if anything else ever comes up on stream, feel free to have your son or you, I guess, shoot me a message or we can chat about it if you think I missed anything else.
All right.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye. Okay. The apartment comments were a little interesting.